Hello, hello, everyone.
Hello, we are live.
So great to see so many of you here. We are so excited about today's webcast.
And I love how everyone got in the chat and told us where they were coming from because they know that we're going to ask to do that.
Right. Well, thank you because I know someone is in London. Great. Welcome, Tucson.
Welcome, everyone.
We've got you from everywhere. And if you are on Twitter, be sure to use the Octavia Tried hashtag. Let people know you're here so they can come join us too.
Well, I guess we will begin with our
Yes.
presentation.
We have an
Here we
amazingly
go.
special guest today. We've had a lot of special guests, but I have to say this one is very near and dear to me. Let's talk about how the webinar will go.
We'll begin with our introduction. So we'll have our conversation. A lot of people sent in questions and answers ahead of time. But if you did not, you can still put them in the chat and we'll see if we can get to them. And as Tananarive Due said earlier, if you're on Twitter, please use the hashtag Octavia Tried. We have great parallel conversations over there.
Yep.
And you can also use it in other social media, but we definitely use it there. And we catch it on Instagram too.
Absolutely.
So now it's my chance to introduce my friend, Tananarive Due. Tananarive Due is an award-winning author who teaches Black horror and Afrofuturism at UCLA. She's an executive producer on Shudder's groundbreaking documentary, Horror Noir, A History of Black Horror. A leading voice in Black speculative fiction for more than 20 years, Tananarive Due has won an American Book Award, an NAACP Image Award, and a British Fantasy Award. And her writing has been included in Best of the Year anthologies. Her books include Go Summer, Stories, My Soul to Keep, and The Good House. She and her late mother, civil rights activist Patricia Stevens Due, co-authored Freedom in the Family, a mother-daughter memoir of the fight for civil rights. She is married to author Stephen Barnes, with whom she collaborates on screenplays. They live with their son Jason and 2 cats.
One of those cats is on probation, but he's still here. And my co-host all these months, can you believe we're on number 18?
Number
Monica?
18.
My co-host 18 months later, the Reverend Dr. Monica A. Coleman is a professor of Africana Studies at the University of Delaware. She's also an ordained elder in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, an initiate of traditional Yoruba religion. She works at the intersection of faith, culture, and social justice. She is the author or editor of 6 books and several articles and book chapters that focus on the role of faith in addressing critical social and philosophical issues. Her book, Making a Way Out of No Way, A Womanist Theology, is required reading at colleges and universities around the country. Her memoir, Bipolar Faith, A Black Woman's Journey with Faith and Depression, received the Silver Illumination Award in 2017. Dr. Coleman speaks widely on religious pluralism, religion and mental health, sexual and domestic violence, and navigating change. She lives in a lively intergenerational household where she is an avid vegan cook and cyclist.
And would you like to introduce Nicole?
I will. We'll be seeing her in just a moment. Nicole Buhari is an award-winning actress, a graduate of the prestigious Juilliard School. Buhari made her leading role film debut in the 2008 drama American Violet. She is well known for her part in the supernatural television series Sleepy Hollow. Shout out to the Sleepy Hollow fans. She played Abby Mills, a sheriff's deputy and FBI agent in the show that ran from 2013 to 2017. But we all know that first season was the best one. She played Rachel Robinson, Jackie Robinson's wife, in the biopic 42. She starred in the independent drama Miss Juneteenth, which if you have not seen Miss Juneteenth, see it immediately. A small family drama celebrating African-American beauty and freedom. What a beautiful, beautiful film that is. She plays Turquoise, a former beauty queen turned bartender, struggling to pay the bills and navigate her teenage daughter's fierce independence. Buhari won an African-American Film Critics Association Award for her role in American Violet and a Gotham Independent Film Award for her part in Miss Juneteenth. Should have been on those Oscar lists. I think she has been nominated for an NAACP Image Award, Teen Choice Award, TV Guide Award, and Fangoria Chainsaw Award. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences invited her into the 2021 class for her roles in Miss Juneteenth and 42. And here she is, Nicole Buhari. Oh, yes, well, whatever. I just come on in. Maybe I jumped the gun. Yes.
Yes.
No,
That's
you're
it.
perfect.
Perfect.
You're perfect. No, you're fine. You're good. You're good. So good to see you.
Welcome
It's
to
really
Octavia
wonderful to
Tried
be
to
here.
Tell Us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited.
So yes, this is the 18th
sure.
month, as we said, and none of us thought we would be here 18 months later, did we?
We did not. We're like, 6-7 months, and we're still going. And I guess we've even acknowledged that whatever we go back to won't be what we left.
No.
So there's still so much wisdom and survival and creativity we're going to need as we move forward into what looks like staying at home again, but even into just a world that has COVID-19 in it.
Yes, it's so interesting. Part of what we talk about obviously is Octavia, but we like to talk to our guests about their pandemic experience and also coming back to work, because I won't ask you what you're working on, but you are working. I know more actors are working. I'm very excited that there's a shoot happening this weekend for something Stephen Barnes and I co-wrote for Horror Noir that has Tony Todd and Rachel True working. Tony Todd's missing his own Candyman screening because I feel kind of bad about it, but it's like, what? But in any case, what is it like in a pandemic to go back to work is the first part of that question. And what kind of pandemic experience did you have during isolation? What sustained you? What lessons did you draw from isolation?
Man, that's a whole hour.
I know, right?
That alone is the whole Well, I mean, I guess I'll start with the first bit. And thank you for having me. Really, it's an honor to talk. I'm a huge Octavia fan. She actually, her work helped me through some really trying times in my 20s, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway.
Great.
Going back to work during the pandemic has been, I don't know, it's sort of like a test of faith in a way, because you have to put so much of your trust in other human beings. Like, they're being responsible, or even the productions that they're going to test people and sort of, do all of the sort of protocols. And at a certain point, there's a kind of a surrender to, as an actor, you can't wear a mask, so we're taking off our masks when we're at work.
Right.
And doing really intimate things. For example, in not this job, but my last job, I had to kiss somebody. And I was like, oh, I haven't somebody outside of my out of my pod. It's like, this is very bizarre. And you just kind of have to surrender to it. But I'm sort of one of those like very vigilant people. I have a lot of family members and friends I come back to. So I feel responsible for their health as well. And I've been really fortunate to be on productions that are doing, as I'm sure you know with your production, all the protocols, all the testing. But it takes something from the, it takes a lot of time. So it takes something from the process of the usual process of sort of acting and just connecting with people. But that's sort of the nature of this entire moment, right?
Yes.
That we're connecting in different ways, finding different ways to connect, and also just like becoming more accustomed to distance. Yeah.
Well put.
Yeah. Consent is a thing though that I'm enjoying, that people don't just like come up to you and touch you and think that they can come into your space, which I'm sort of like, I didn't know that one part. I'm like, I actually really love this. So that part I'm going to keep. Before the variant started to sort of take over, they sort of dropped it and everyone's hugging and approaching you really quickly. And I was just sort of like, this is a lot. So I like the fact that people ask now. I like consent. Don't run up on me, people.
They're doing this in churches, right? Where you have different color bands that indicate how you want to be approached. Like, you can hug me, or you can elbow me, or you can just wave at me from a distance.
What kind of salute me?
And they're different colors, right? And you can see them. And some churches were doing that before the pandemic, but a lot are doing that now. The ones that have opened up have started doing that too.
I love that.
Yeah,
And I know
we can keep that just so people can have a sense of personal space.
I agree. I agree. Why were we all up on top of everyone before anyway? What were we thinking about?
And like we're a diversity of different types of people and histories within your body, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's important. It's important. We have to keep that bit. And then as far as the isolation section of the pandemic, I don't know. That's a lot. I garden, family, writing, reading, scripts, exercising, dancing. I will say, to tie it into the queen here, there's a lot of like pulling in and questioning the systems that we're a part of, right? And if they sort of function in the way that they say that they do, or in ways that serve me, in my community, and sort of, we were in the middle of uprising, political change, reform, also discovering so much about the healthcare system. I have had health problems in the past, and it was just, for me, there were a lot of moments of like, we need a great deal of change. And it sort of starts with me experimenting with myself and my beliefs, and, how much faith I can put into the sort of Western medicine,
yes,
sort of thing. Very, very, very Lauren, yeah. So it was just a lot of sort of processing where we are and what sort of agency I have within this time, Yeah.
Great.
I know that's
great
that's
answer.
not the like lightest, happiest.
No, but that's why, we're all here. We're all, I mean, especially when we first started, like you said, all of this was happening at once. The lack of national leadership, the emergence of this pandemic. I mean, so many things, the hate, the George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, so much happening. This is the place where we keep it real about what we're struggling with, but with an eye toward the lessons that Octavia planted in her books that help us get through, which is what she intended. She intended her books to have that, because she was trying to tell us.
Seriously. And I'm glad that people are getting it. Now I'm glad that like it's uncanny, like down to the phrases, to the make America great. It's crazy. It's really spectacular. But people are sort of getting it. I hate that it's a post thing though. I wish she would have benefited from it in her lifetime,
I know. Yes.
And this leads us to our big question, right? When did you fall in love with Octavia Butler? What was the first book you read?
Oh my God.
What is it her work meant for you?
Yeah. So Fledgling was the first book I read.
Wow. That's an interesting
I know, we're
one.
Like,
yeah. And it was so all over the place. I was so like, I didn't like what I was reading. I was fascinated by it. I was just sort of like, who came up with this? And there's also this notion that she has in quite a few of them, where like the thing that is historically or like societally deemed as a negative, being melanated or being hypersensitive or whatever, is actually your superpower, is actually the thing that makes you divine and like, sort of impenetrable, or it's some other gift, right? It's like leading us to something else. And so I was like, oh, this is interesting. At that point, I had just had a massive loss. And I was just in like a funk. I read that book and I couldn't put it down. I was just living with it. These characters, they just came to life. And even though in this one they are, she is surrounded by a bunch of white characters, I didn't feel like it was solely about race. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, I feel like in so many, you're always in service to the sort of development of the white character, right? When you see people of color in storytelling like this a great deal of the time. So this was my first time experiencing, oh, she's not like a side character. This is about her, and she's 50, and she's she's in a 10-year-old's body. For anyone who doesn't know, which is, there's also some very strange things about, you know, age and sexuality that I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this, but it's interesting that she went there. And then after that, I read Wild Seed, and it was over for me.
That was my first, Wild Seed.
Yeah, Wild Seed, but Wild Seed is to date. I know you guys are parable lovers, but that's still my favorite.
That's okay.
I love the Pattern Master series.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah, Wild Seed, I was just like, wow, traveling through time. And she introduced just so many ideas that I think are a part of, maybe in some like DNA way, I don't know. I just felt like, it felt like home. Like they felt like stories I had almost, like I've heard this story, like I know this story, but no one's ever told it to me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know, especially with like Wild Seed, it was like, this feels right. This feels, it makes sense that there are these beings that are moving through time and that can inhabit bodies. And sort of, you hear about that in my mother's West Indian. You hear about like Duppies, you know, that there's all these stories that are similar. So I was like, oh, she's sort of like an anthropologist, a scientist, you know, bringing all these things together that I enjoy. And that's basically how I fell in love with her. And then when I got to Parable, I was a little bit older, and I'd started already to think about the nature of the environment and what's going on in the world. And she, you know, the way that she talks about diversity, it just blows my mind. And I know that we're thinking of it in terms of like people and the way that people think, but she actually brought me to those quotes about diversity, or you'll die if you don't have
adapt or die. Yes.
If you don't, all those quotes sort of brought me to this study that I have now of permaculture, which is like a kind of farming or like living that is reflective of nature. So it's all about growing things rather than say you have acres and you just grow wheat. It's like a monoculture. But in permaculture, you have to have like all these different, you would have, lettuces, carrots, you know, dandelion, all these different things growing so that you're bringing different nutrients, nitrogen, all these things into the soil so that the soil doesn't deplete, which is what happens in nature. But if you think about it, it's like the microcosm of the macro, right? So it's the same thing in life. And that's what she's talking about. She's like, it doesn't work. It dries out. It dies if you don't have that. Same thing with like our guts, right? It has like a microbiome of all these different things. So she just basically, I don't know if I can swear on this, but she kind of fucked me up.
You can swear.
She basically was like, look, this is what it's about. And this is what we fight, because it's so frightening to face the thing that you don't recognize as being you. And that's sort of so that's it for me. I was just like, what, God has changed. Like, what is this? And you know, we're all kind of questioning and trying to understand this, which is some of your work, Monica, like this Christianity as a Black person, you know, like this faith as how do I make peace with this? I've had that question a great deal. And so just all these characters spoke to questions that I've had on my journey. And so, she's the one. She's like the oracle in a way. It's very interesting.
She is. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I was lucky enough to know Octavia briefly before she died. She was actually present where I met my husband, Stephen Barnes, and Steve was a very close friend of hers. And we laughed once about the intersection of Hollywood and her work, or all of our work, you know, because at the time this book called Dark Matter had just come out, edited by Cherie Renee Thomas, and it was getting some attention. It was the year 2000, and there were inquiries about film options. And then Octavia said, and I do a terrible Octavia impression, but she said, well, you know Hollywood, she said, and we all just laughed and laughed. But now we've gone from nothing to, I saw 2 announcements in a week about works, Fledgling being one, which for the reasons you mentioned, that will be interesting as an adaptation. I'm very curious about they're going to get around that. As a 10, for those of you who haven't read it, it's a 50-year-old vampire who presents as a 10-year-old girl who is sexual with
Very
people.
sexual.
Yeah, so
like
I think
a 50-year-old.
they will have to age
yeah.
that character up. And the other one was Kindred, which, I see in chat. That was the first Octavia novel for a lot of people. So she is finally getting that attention. And I know as an actor, you're always looking out for roles. So one of our first questions, which I think is a good one, is what would be the dream part that you would love to play in an Octavia adaptation? Let's just put it in the universe. Put it in the universe, girl.
No,
put it in the universe.
I can't.
We all want to know.
Like I said, Wild Seed is my favorite. But honestly, I would take any of the parts because there's so many. That needs to be a show. There's so many.
They're working on that too.
Yeah, and I know I just saw that they are doing a parable. I think A24 just picked it up a few days ago, so that's exciting.
All at once, all this activity.
People know, they can feel it. They know. That's what I mean. I wish he was here to see it. Really, I truly do, because that work it's something else. But it would be. Yeah, I would love to see. I tell you, I would love to see you in Dawn. I would love to see you in Wild Seed. I would love to be in Wild Seed, but I'm not right for the part. I know myself. I'm not right for the part. But any of the other parts, even the kids, or, I could be a tribeswoman. I'm like that kind of person. Yeah, well, you'll be a great Dana. Yeah. You know what? I don't know why. Maybe because I like the future and the other. I don't know. I understand. Yeah. That one's hard. Kindred is hard, going back to antebellum slavery. Yes. Yeah. But it's beautifully done. Yeah. I kind of want the adventure. I want the ride, the other rides. But yeah, those are my answers. Great. And all right, universe. Lauren, I think Lauren is a teenager. She is a teenager. I mean, you kind of look like a teenager, to be honest. But
yeah, there's a whole thread in the chat about that.
Oh, really? No, well, no. This is good lighting. I'm sitting by a window. Please. No, but yeah, man. Just there's so many. That's the other thing. There's so many beautiful female characters, and it's not about a man or it's just so incredible. It's so incredible. It's about your place, your understanding of what it means to be on the planet in different ways, whether you're a vampire or a hypersensitive or you're being eaten by this alien thing feeding off of you, also just concepts that I'd never seen, that I've always loved, sci-fi and horror or fantasy, but never seen with us. In that way. So yes. Yeah. So it's been a beautiful renaissance for the kind of work that I write and I enjoy and that you enjoy. So it's a beautiful, beautiful moment that hopefully will sustain. I wonder if she would be happy. That I do, just to talk about the film thing, when you said Hollywood, I hope that it's done in a way that she'll be happy with it. They're her do you know what I mean? Because you can I know what you mean. Cut corners when I didn't know about fledgling, and I'm ooh, how are you going to do that? And it still has to have some of the, obviously you have to age her up, but it still has to have some of the taboo elements and that discomfort. There's a reason why she did that. You're very right about that. That thread of discomfort is all through Octavia's work. I think that's one of the most uncomfortable. I had a hard time teaching that in one of my UCLA classes because a couple students pushed back, and who knows what people have been through, right? So if I'm not going to send out a survey before class, then maybe sometimes I might need to teach a different book because even on the cover, they're not shying away from this tiny child on the cover, but there's the discomfort and kindred of Dana's choices, and there's discomfort all throughout. And it's almost as if Octavia was trying to sort of provoke something in us out of our comfort zone, right? To make us look more carefully at the world.
But there's this great question someone had posed about, from your perspective, it comes with what we're talking about now. Are there some things we should leave on the page? Are there some of her books that maybe shouldn't be adapted? I don't know if we can say this out loud, right? Or ones that, that something, as we all know, and I know you especially know this, Tananarive, you can't get the book and the film. They're two different things. They're kind of alike, but they're not the same. Right. You can't do in an hour and a half what someone does in 250 pages. And so, there's always going to be something that's different. But are there some that should just stay on the page? Like we shouldn't make this a movie. It's not going to work.
That remains to be seen.
I mean, I guess we'll know after they come out.
I'm not here.
Yes, I could see how Kindred could go very badly wrong. I could see how Fledgling could go very badly wrong. If the right hands are not at the helm. One positive note, though, is that we are seeing so much positive change, and that's the cognitive dissonance of this era, especially for all of us who are creators. And I know you're probably experiencing this too, Nicole. 2020, we're wondering, what will life be? Will we literally survive? But at the same time, on the professional side, so many kudos for Miss Juneteenth, things in the works that are now starting to come to fruition now. It's just like this interesting period where, I think you are going to emerge in a kind of a leadership position. I've always seen you really as a leader in terms
of... You're talking about me?
Yes, you, in terms of speculative art. Okay, girl, Miss Thing, Sleepy Hollow, Black Mirror, Jacob's Ladder. I mean, I could go on and on.
It's the boxes. The boxes are boring. That's what Octavia, she was like, I'm writing in genre, period, because you can get outside of the boxes. And for us, the boxes are so strict. People literally cannot see you. They just don't see us, outside of. So even the characters I've played in these parts, they're sort of within the box, but like trying to get out of it. And I think there's a lot more to do there. There's a lot of work to do there. But man, when you see like what Jordan Peele is doing, there's so many, there's so much more happening. So yes, it is exciting. And thank you for saying that. But there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to do to tear these boxes. Yeah.
That's for sure. That's for sure. But let me look. I'm sorry. No, you didn't at all. I'm just scanning the questions because there are so many questions. And I want to make sure. Do you have a question that jumps out to you, Monica?
Yeah, I think I just had a glitch in my internet. Oh. But so you feel like one of the great questions was, how has your love of Octavia Butler influenced your dramatic approach or the kind of roles that you want to take?
Oh my goodness. You know what? Thinking about this, preparing to speak with you guys today, I realized it's really deep. Like, like maybe more so than I had even truly realized. I'm always thinking about, maybe in my life, but when you say a Black Mirror or even like Shame, those are not necessarily, that movie is not necessarily genre, but like questioning sexuality, questioning technology, world building, what does that look like for us? And I think I'm always looking for material that asks those questions, and that also gives women, which is what she does, voice in a way that can be peculiar and sort of shows you the advantage, gives us an idea of the advantage of being people that others may deem as like unexceptional, or sort of ignored. Sort of playing with that, which is like, even with Juneteenth, it's not genre, but someone that you would normally not see in a film represented. And I wanted to make sure that like people could feel her, like really feel her. And I think that also comes from that lineage of the way that she tells stories. So I think it's a big thing.
Good.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of crazy.
And the fact that her influence, as you said, is growing as more people are becoming aware. Parable of the Sower got on the New York Times bestseller list for the first time in 2020, years after it was published. Yeah. And she did not live to see that. And for me, knowing so many other people who have come and gone, who also wanted to make inroads in Hollywood and never lived to see it. It just makes me all the more grateful that, as you're right, there is so much more work to be done, but that I even made it to this moment to be able to enjoy the fruits of other people's labor and, like, you know, have a couple of my fruits picked too, you know, and bring other people along.
Picked.
It's astounding to me, but at the same time, we're in these troubled times. You know, California has a recall election coming up where, I mean, maybe the rest of the nation got rid of, or parts of the nation got rid of Trumpism, but we could be ushering in an era of Trumpism in California if we don't handle that right. So the uncertainty is difficult, and an actor's life is full of uncertainty. So how do you navigate that? How do you navigate uncertainty? Because waiting, that's the thing that Hollywood taught me. You know, you might as well just grow a tree in the time it takes to get that document signed by the Business Affairs Office. I'm not lying. How do you navigate uncertainty?
Man, I think that's the question. What is it? God has changed, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of where it's at. Constantly trying to figure that out. I mean, I think the more that it's even what I said about going back to work, it's sort of a surrender, surrendering to it, doing the most that I can, but surrendering to it. And then also creating, I do a lot of creative things in my personal space for myself and for the people that I love. I make things. So I'm not completely reliant on, my expression is not completely reliant on the business and industry, but I'm a part of that too. You know, I think that's really important. Self-care, people talk about self-care, but like figuring out what that really is for you. Everyone doesn't need a bubble bath and like a candle, and you know, for each person, it may be comedy, it may be spending time with friends, it may be like isolation. For me, you know, some people are like, isolation is awful. I was like, you know, well, I didn't know. I was like, oh, this is kind of good for me. I might need to do this more because I'm doing too much, and you know, not to be insensitive, because it was a hard time. Don't get me wrong, but just discovering what care really means helps you navigate. Like when you're like, oh no, I'm on this roller coaster and we're going down, or I don't know where we're going, which is what it feels like right now. But then also realizing if you go back, like I'm sure she and you being writers, you have to do so much research. You know about history and anthropology. There have been so many periods in time that have looked like this, you know, and we've sort of made it. And the idea that we were stable at any point is also kind of a fallacy anyway.
True.
You know what I mean? It's like the appearance of it in one place and maybe not another. There's always instability in pockets. So I'm pretty grounded in that way. I'm like, this has happened before. I think James Baldwin has a quote, like, when you think you're going through something exceptional, pick up a book, you know, and you realize that like, this has happened before, polio and all these, this has happened, you know.
That is so true.
All these things. Yeah. So, and we've made it through, and we have made it through some shit. So
we have, and we do.
And I got that in my like DNA. Sorry, I keep swearing.
No, that's okay.
That's the other thing. I'm a potty mouth. Sorry, potty. I'm like, oh no, she's a priest. I gotta stop.
Oh God.
I wouldn't worry about that.
No, don't worry about that.
Oh gosh, sorry y'all. But no, yeah, just the resilience is also in the DNA. Maybe to a fault that our nervous systems are like, you know, but that's sort of how I deal with it. Like, this has happened before. We're on this planet and we'll make it through, and, you know, hopefully take responsibility. But the climate thing is a new level. Like, you know, that part that she also talks about in Parable, like the water and the, you know, the way that things dry out, that part is new. And so that's the only part that really throws me. So I'm like, the environment is the thing, because if we don't have a home, that's it.
It feels so big, and it feels like there's so little that any individual can do.
Yeah.
That's what's so, and Octavia was very concerned about that. That took up a lot of our conversation in 2000 about climate change and how it was already showing its impact while people were denying its existence. And yeah, she was trying everything she had. You brought up a James Baldwin quote, and I'm thinking about another one, which I will have to paraphrase, but I used to have it on my desk when I first started publishing. It's something to the effect of, basically, whenever you enter a new profession, you're going to encounter the ugly underside, the underbelly of that profession. So, whether it's publishing or acting, and some of your ugly underside has been public, but you can speak obliquely or generally about how you have managed to maintain your enthusiasm about the industry, despite some of the struggles you've been through, some of which were public, some of which were private before they were public, and it's a lot. There's a lot that has been thrown at you, my dear. How do you keep your strength and your optimism about being in this industry?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm like, why me? Why is this happening? But honestly, again, it's been done before. All the things and worse. Like, I love Eartha Kitt. I love, if you just read people's stories, you hear like they've been blacklisted. This happened, that happened. And, even think of Colin Kaepernick. Like, he was on the wrong side of things until people started to realize, oh no, it shouldn't, you know what I mean? So that industry, completely ostracized him until they got with it, until the consensus publicly changed. And that's just how it is. It's just how it is. I know I have a good sense of me. Unfortunately, I had to find it by tumbling down rocky hills and being a little bit naive about things, But I'm really grateful for the generosity of the people that have come before, that write memoirs like you have, Monica, and share their story, and it helps you realize, again, we can get through this. Like, we can get through this, and if I do my job, it'll be easier. And I do think that some of what I've gone through, even just with my peers, my friends, has made it easier for other people that are coming, you know what I mean? And the way things are moving. And, I stand on the shoulders of, so many people. So I think that's the thing. And like, completely, that's the thing. But I will say, being able to have stories to escape into is also a way that I unwind, or that my mind, if it's engaging enough, my mind gets to go there. So rather than thinking about the problem, I think thinking about tearing things down or what's happened, or like vengeance or all that, I think about what the opportunity is in the situation. And I think that's what I think her work does, and other stuff that I'm sort of drawn to in those moments. And this media is so powerful. So I also feel like when, how it's like an old, Black thing, when they're like, when the devil after you, that means you really got something. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, when they really come for you, it's because you got something. So I kind of feel like it's such a powerful medium. People wanting to stop you or undermine you from doing what you do, and if they're effective in that, then they win.
They win.
And so the medium is not owned by anyone. It's a medium. It's the medium itself, the camera, and now it's actually becoming more democratic because we can make things and other people can finance it. So yeah, that's it for me.
That's beautiful. What a thoughtful. All of your answers are beautiful and thoughthtul, And I thought I heard you say a while back that during the pandemic you were doing some writing.
You see, yes. I literally was going to ask you about that. I was like, tell us about this.
Do tell.
What kinds of things do you write?
Yes. Well, it's been interesting. It's like there's script stuff, right? There's scripts, stories, feature ideas, film ideas, things like that. And then there's also just like, how do you live? Questions, you know, experiments, writing outside of the box of what I'm like, not necessarily knowing what this is that I'm writing, if that makes sense. Listening to Bjork and being like, she does whatever she wants. Let's try that.
Right.
You know, just to express. But yeah, things that can fit within the model, and also performance art, which is something I'm working on now. So there's a bunch of like kind of out there stuff, but I guess everyone knows me for like the mainstream stuff that is out there. But I think there will be more interesting sharing happening in the future, thanks to, again, taking some time to sit down and discover what really works and moves me.
Yeah. The only problem with being booked and busy is the busy part. When you're busy, you can't sit quietly, listen to your voices, you know, that keep you nourished. Like, what stories do I want to tell, or what is the best way for me to tell this story? So that sounds great.
But being okay, I do want to say this to and also to people who are listening. Like, it's nice to say booked and busy, but there was a point where it was like I was working, but I wasn't like super booked and busy. I was desiring and doing busy work. So I was like going after things. You know how you're going after things, like auditioning and doing this and doing all the things, doing all the research to get something, rather than realizing what's trying to grow here, like what's changing here, and what could potentially be, you know, my voice, as opposed to I'm trying to. They've established this already. I want to jump into that, you know. So that's the sort of shift. So it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm so booked and busy, I didn't have time to. Like, no, I wasn't. I didn't realize. I didn't take the time to think, because I didn't think that my thoughts were as, you know, necessary, because other people had honored their voice, and so that's something I hope everybody does, you know, more of.
How did you make that shift? Because I think that's really common for a lot of people to feel like you're doing everyone else's thing and not your own. So was it the pandemic that got that for you, or something you read, or was it like an epiphany? But what made that shift for you?
I don't know. I think it's a bunch of different factors. Seeing other people do it, maybe even seeing people do it poorly and being like, what the hell?
Yes.
I'm working for this person. You know what I mean? You're like, I know. It's very clear this is the answer. And you're like, why am I working under this person? I don't understand what I'm doing. You know? Or sometimes, I know that sounds arrogant, but that happens. But also just being inspired, and probably the quietness, and enjoying my company and the company of other people I'm creating with, and saying, oh, this could be life. Like this feels good. This feels good, and it's healthy for me. You know, I'm sure that's sort of how this came to be with you two. It's like you're doing something and you're like, this feels right. This feels good. Why not continue to do this? And then there's the fan base, and then it turns into something else and something else. And yeah,
that is absolutely what happened. It started as a text message, and here we are 18 months later.
Hey,
you know?
That's the thing. Yeah.
So,
you know? But we have to sort of listen to ourselves and have enough worth to do that, to sort of say, yeah, I should do this, and people will want to see this, or we're at least going to try. But sometimes we have ideas and we're like, let me just go after what so-and-so has already established. Right.
That's an important moment when you realize that you can do it too. And I was talking about the importance of modeling. And when I look at Octavia, oh my gosh, what is the name of the bad science fiction movie she watched when she was a child? And she thought, oh my gosh, I can do better than that. I will think of it.
Right. I remember her talking.
There's a bad, I will think of it. But just that can be such a motivating factor. And sometimes we've just lacked the confidence. But for people of color, it's a combination, because you've lacked the confidence, you've lacked the models, you know, and then you lack the access until like 2 seconds ago, right? Until 2 seconds ago.
Literally. Yeah.
If you're a Black woman auditioning for a part, and depending on your age, you know, it will be these things. If you're a Halle Berry, you're going to be acting opposite white men in a bunch of different movies, right? For example, Halle and Denzel never did a movie together. When you think about it, when they were both at the height, because no one was going to cast a Black love story when they were at their height. That just wasn't going to happen, right? So I don't think so. So yeah, so many things have stood in the way. I too wish Octavia had lived to see this time, and I wonder often what she would think of it, and what she would say to us in terms of how we face this very exciting future. On the one hand,
she would see through a lot of stuff.
She sure would. Devil Girl from Mars was the movie. Thank you, Sue Alexander. Devil Girl from Mars. Yeah, she would see. What is the thing? Is there something about this Renaissance that, like, through Octavia's lenses,
don't ask me that.
You don't trust?
That question.
What do we not trust?
I know.
Well, I'll tell you. I'll start with an easy one. I think we all knew last summer that those Black Lives Matter banners that we saw on every streamer were gonna. I mean, not only were they gonna go away, but the whole mindset, you know, can't. In some ways, I feel like it can't wait to snap back to what it was, not because everyone is a drooling racist, but because people like to work with people they know. Number one, that they've had past successes with, who have been tried with them, and also there's the discomfort of outreach, bringing in new voices, and not being able to control those new voices entirely. Right? It's ally fatigue. Asia is saying in the chat. So that's something that we could have predicted, that the allyship would fade, the interest in our stories would fade. But on one level, because we have iPhones that can double as cameras, and we can create a YouTube channel that can reach almost anyone, we do have more power than we did during Octavia's lifetime. You know, she only passed away in 2006, but so much has changed since then.
So much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful point. I don't know what to add to that.
Oh, okay.
I you know what? I read somewhere, she had notes somewhere. She was like, I'm a pessimist, like I'm a pessimist and sort of right. I don't know. I think I share these. You know, people who are sensitive and see things, you see it, and you're just like, okay.
Are you a hyper empath yourself? Do you feel like you have hyper empathy syndrome a bit?
I think and maybe this is too like large a thing, but I think any people who are who have been sort of disenfranchised are, in a way, because we have to be aware of and sort of anticipate the movements of other people, the people who are in, you know, power in a way. Right? So you have to sort of know what's going on, or people who dealt with like abuse and things like that. You sort of feel like, oh, I know what that. Oh, let me go ahead and get this water. Yes. I know this person's about to go. So yes, maybe I am sensitive, but not for reasons that I think are great.
Right. It's just you've been through some things and you've seen some things,
and life. But I think many of us are, but we choose not to notice. And that's what I love about her work too. It's like we all see it, but it's like I can't really deal with it because I have to live my day-to-day life. And then she writes it down like, okay, it's going to be a desert out here soon if we don't handle this. And this is what's going to happen. And we're going to have this kind of despot like ruling the country. You know what I mean? If we don't, but we just don't have the time to stop and take it in. I am curious about like, if you guys are, like who's doing this kind of work now? Like how much further do we, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got caught up reading face comment here in chat.
What's happening in the
No, we're just talking about, we're talking about the past. We'll hash it out. We'll hash it out later.
But my question is really connected to what you were saying about, you know, we've gone back and forth on Octavia tried about, was she a prophet? Is she prescient? Was she clairvoyant? But she has these she paid attention, right? I think it was one of our guests talked about how because she walked everywhere, she noticed things that a lot of us would drive by or fly by. And some of this was like the writing on the wall, right? Like he just paid attention and wrote it down. And so we talk a lot about in our Shaping Change community about, the power of observation. And so I guess my question to you is, we see all the things that Octavia noticed. What are you noticing now? What is it that grabs your attention that you're like, people should pay attention? Like, what is the one or two things that you're really noticing?
I really think the environment, like I'm with the environment part, with the, like we're doing these, we're in these like factions about a lot of different things, other things, but like the only thing that we really have in common, other than being maybe the same species, is that we're on this rock, right? And we don't take care of it, like seriously, resources and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be problematic. You can already feel it. That for me is the thing that I'm like, it's so easy to ignore and be like, there's nothing, like, what can I do? But we could force people, our representatives and companies, to make changes with our dollars, as we've even seen with like the black boxes, you know what I mean? Like things do gradually change, but this feels so big. I think it feels so big. That's my thing. And then the other observation, I don't even want to share it. It's so dark.
Oh, well, but you know what? Octavia readers are used to that.
And Tananarive loves that dark stuff.
I know, but that's for our personal conversation. I don't know. I'm not. Yeah.
Well, I'll just, to keep it really real, Octavia did not believe we would be a long-lived species beyond, she said, okay, we've been here longer maybe than most for our intelligence, but she really did not feel we would be here for the long haul because of all of these tendencies that we're well aware of from her work. The hierarchy, racism falls into that, and the tendency to see yourself as the highest in the hierarchy, and the violence, which is also so present throughout her work and makes it difficult, but also I think realistic, So if 2020 and the beginning of 2021 have taught us nothing else, it is that we are fragile in so many ways. The nation is fragile. The planet world is fragile. The world is fragile. So all we can do is find like-minded people, I think, and agitate and create awareness. Some of that is through politics, I guess. Some of that is through art. I think art has an important place, and Octavia is a great example of why art is so important, because you don't know who your work will reach.
Right.
You can write a book in complete isolation, as she mostly did, complete isolation, and touch the whole world through your writing and create a leader or thinker of tomorrow who will think outside of those boxes that you're talking about, Nicole, But she did fight against pessimism because she was paying attention. And I think anyone who's paying attention will fight against pessimism. That's natural because things are dire. On that note,
no.
I mean, I think creativity helps. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And gave us the opportunity to think outside of like what else is. I mean, I feel like Parable is constantly just like, what else is possible? How can we reframe this? Having Earthseed, right? Like, yeah. So yeah. Sorry, I feel like I was just like, I'm not gonna tell you how my dark thoughts, but
no, you don't. You are under no obligation to share your dark thoughts with us.
Yeah.
But the one thing, the gift that she gives us in Parable is that drop of optimism. And it's interesting that it does have this intersection with faith, although she had left the faith of her father like Lauren. Octavia herself did believe that creating a religion could have the power, or something that reads as a religion, could have the kind of power to draw people together in a shared narrative, right? And that only lasting truth is change line gets me through a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The thing is, I think we do have a religion here, right? This is the pessimistic part. I'm going to go ahead and give it to you.
Oh, we're getting it.
Unfortunately, it's just money.
Yeah.
because the environment would be saved if it weren't. So we do have a religion, but it's money.
Yeah,
and so that's the thing. Because even the racism, the whole xenophobia, all that stuff, at the root of it, it's money, right? Slavery, it was for money. So you had to sort of make us less to justify what you were doing because you needed to create a wealthy nation, right? So, yeah, that part. I think we do. So, like, how do we break that down? It's also it's you know, it's the way to. It's so lovely right now. Everyone's posting what they have and how they look, and it just feels so good when you actually make it, right? When you make the money and you get to, and everyone loves it. How can you depart from all your lovely trinkets and gadgets to like save the world and share it with other people? It's like crazy. No one gonna do that.
Well, unless you have to. I mean, this is kind of what we see. Unless you got to run outside your house with a backpack, right?
Yeah. Or like she's saying, create an alternative, something to believe in, something, whether it's community. I think that's the thing too. Like the community, I think, is what we discovered because what happened when everything shut down for me is like, there weren't pictures of traveling and, you know, what people were wearing and stuff. And people really cared about other people and their health. And it became sort of really basic, you know. It was like, it took that to be like, oh, wow. But we quickly kind of jumped back in the let's get it going again, you know, which is not bad. I'm not saying that's bad, but I do think that we were making a lot of changes, and I think, you know, a lot of distractions can sort of come back in. You know, it was like there was no sports, there was no, so everyone was really focused. There have still been shootings and like killings this year, but they're not as important, right? Because we're busy again.
That's the sad thing. There's a great question in chat, which is probably the last question, because we have a tradition here. You know, Lauren in Parable of the Sower had her go bag. You know, she was ready. She knew the walls were going to fall. What is in your figurative or literal go bag?
Oh, I love that. Oh, okay. Oh.
And that's from Nicole Beharie in chat.
Thank you, Nicole. I can't see the chat.
Wow.
They only have the chat. A coconut.
Oh.
That's literal, because I love coconut water and coconut oil and coconut everything. You can do everything with coconut, including grow other things. Yeah. And then I guess the figurative version, maybe a journal. A journal. My grandmother gave me this watch, so it's not really useful. Go back, but it does something for my heart. I love her dearly. And
then it is useful. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess like a knife, one of those knife shovel things.
Octavia has taught us nothing except bring a weapon.
Yes, a knife. But like the knife shovel, you know, they have them. Like a knife shovel thing. That's important. And they have these carbon filters for water.
Yes.
I guess that would be a thing. I guess that's probably it. And I guess masks now. Yeah. I never thought about that, but you'd have to have like a mask. Yeah. I don't have a go bag with me. I'm like traveling around. You know, on set and everything, I'm thinking about it. Like at my home, I have emergency stuff, but don't travel with a go bag. That's really interesting. That's a great question. Yeah, I think that's it. All my favorite. I went and saw Ruby Dee when I had just gotten out of Juilliard speak, and she had like a library of her favorite quotes and everything in her mind, and that's something that I started to, you know, just read more and try to memorize lines from songs or poems and things. And I think that's a part of the sort of go bag too, is having things that you can rely on, like a library, because you can't take all your books, right?
No.
So if you memorize some of the words or even things that people have said that are like food for you, that keep you going, I think that's a part of it. Yeah, that would be in my go bag.
Beautiful. And I think that's a great last statement. Don't you, Monica?
I do. So where can people find you or read about you, or where would you like, if people want to, get a little bit more Nicole Beharie, where should they go?
They can go to my Instagram. I'm at NikkieBeharie, NikkieBeharie. And as far as what's next, I have a show called Scenes from a Marriage coming out just in a section of it on HBO. It's a remake of the Ingmar Bergman movie.
Oh, yeah, lovely.
We just did, this is sci-fi though, but I did Solos with Amazon. So that's streaming on Amazon right now.
Those are shorts. Yes.
Yeah, they're shorts. So it won't take up too much of your time. And I have some other things coming out, but I can't speak about them right now. So I'm shooting now. But hit me up on Instagram, follow me. Thank you for inviting me into this community. I consider myself a part of it now. So
you are absolutely a part of it now. You've actually always been a part of it. You just didn't know it. Yeah, that's all.
I'm such a fan. I'm such a fan of you. Like, I know we're talking about Octavia, but I'm such a fan of your books and your work. And we've been speaking maybe like years ago.
Years
before people
now.
Even started to really, cast us in genre and think about it. And you've been pushing for this, so I really hope that you're enjoying this moment.
I am,
and yeah,
I'm putting your name out there too. Like in my scripts, it's like I'm Nicole Buhari type.
Because Tananarive is booked and busy.
I'm blessed. Tananarive is blessed. That's what's going on right now. But anyway, fantastic conversation with you, ladies.
And Tananarive, will you share a bit about our community?
Absolutely. Okay, so in addition to this monthly free webinar, we have a community we call the Shaping Change community, where we meet typically the week after this week, where you learn the 7 steps of Octavia's method of shaping change, ongoing discussions about Octavia Butler's work and influence, the Shaping Change e-journal with monthly writing prompts, interaction with me and with Monica, because you're on the screen too. So it's not just in the chat. You're actually on the screen, and you can share more of your stories with us and get feedback. A social media group to build community. And as a sign-up bonus, you get that 2000 interview that Steve and I did with Octavia, where it's such a joy to hear her laughing. Although she does say, Hollywood. And in order to, and this is a testimonial from one of our members, Erica, who has been attending, and I'm sure some of them are here in the chat. I don't know if I should read that whole.
Oh, well, I'll read it quickly.
Okay.
From Kindred to Wild Seed and her penultimate parable, the Sower duology, Octavia Butler demonstrated a philosophy of gathering community. When we gather virtually for shaping change, we are honoring and practicing what Butler gifted to us, building our singular voices and talents and sparking the talents of one another as we witness, bear, and activate change.
Beautifully written. We have a lot of writers and artists and rappers in that group.
So many great creatives.
It's just so many different kinds of people. Just if you want to learn more about the Shaping Change community, check it out at www.octaviawebinar.com.
We'd love to have you with us.
Absolutely. We'll be meeting, I believe, next week, right, Monica?
Yes, next week. We will be meeting next week.
Yes, absolutely. There's still time to join us. So thank you so much for coming to today's Octavia Tried to Tell Us Parable for Today's Pandemic webinar. With Nicole Beharie. How excited are we that we have Nicole with us? And we're excited to have all of you. I don't know if you saw in the chat, Brian Fuller is here. From Hannibal and American Gods and many other things. So we're glad that so many of you were able to come, and we look forward to seeing you the next time.
Great. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
Well, thank you guys. You're beautiful.